I had less than 24 hours to make a decision that could have cost me my entire college career. On one side, it was a Fortune 500 opportunity that people spend years chasing. On the other side, it was me risking going home, feeling like I wasted 3 years of my life in college. One decision, 24 hours. And getting it wrong meant going home with absolutely nothing. See, most people may never face a decision like that in their lives, but every day you're facing decisions that determine the gap between the life you dream of and the life you dread. The problem isn't decisions are too hard to make. The problem is you were never taught how to make them. So they wait, they overthink, they ask for everybody else's opinion on around them, which leaves them in the same position, not making a decision, and life continually moves on. And every day you stay stuck. It's a day you choose a life that you have versus the life that you want. And I want to tell you how I made that decision in less than 24 hours because this process did not come from a business book. It did not come from a self-help book. It came from studying one of the most wisest and decisive men who ever lived, most known for being a king, defeating giants, and defying the odds. And never once did this man let indecision cost him his destiny. And by the time you leave this video, you're going to have a step-by-step framework to make every decision in your life with the same clarity and conviction as this man had. Now let's get to it. I remember this day like it was yesterday. I was sitting in at my school program. We was hosting a event for students to come out, and my mentor was speaking to everybody about opportunities, was talking about maximizing your time in college. And he said something and that made me freeze mid-sentence. He was talking about a previous mentee of his that he had, how they graduated early, and by the time they ended graduating about 6 months later, they text him and said, "Man, I wish I would have stayed all 4 years." That hit me like a ton of bricks. At that moment, my chest got heavy. Not because I was nervous, but because I knew that message was for me. And now I had less than 24 hours to make a decision that I had been avoiding my whole entire college career. And it was a hard decision, to say the least. And what was driving my indecision was fear. I was afraid. I was afraid of if I make the wrong decision, I'm going to look back and say, man, I shouldn't have did that. Because in the beginning of my college career, I said I want to maximize on everything that's given to me as long as it's in God's will. And I wanted to be able to look back and say, man, I gave it my all while I was in school. But I was afraid of making that wrong choice with the frame in mind that me choosing indecision was actually safer, but it wasn't. And I realized something while I was sitting in the room listening to my mentor talk, that indecision is still a decision. And every day I avoided choosing what I wanted, I was letting fear determine my future. In the back of my mind, I knew that whatever decision I make, God was going to honor it and it was going to work out for me. As Romans 8:28 says, is everything works out for the good of those who love the Lord and called according to his purpose. But that slipped my mind. I had allowed the enemy to get me to focus so much on fear that I forgot the faith portion. Because when you focus on fear, all it does is pull you away from Christ. Imagine Christ is right here and you're right here. You have all the faith in the world, so you're pushing and pushing yourself towards him. But one mistake later, you start to focus on fear. And as you focus on fear, you're pulling away. But guess what? Christ never moved. And that's what the enemy does. He gets you to focus on the fear rather than the faith to push you towards God. And that's what happened to me. So I went and did 4 things. I sought counsel and prayed. And I decided it was time for me to stop sitting on the fence and make a choice. I enlightened myself on every pro and con that could come from this decision. I eliminated the option that did not align with where God was taking me, and I pursued that decision without going back. No revision, no second guessing, a full commitment that I made to stay all 4 years instead of graduating early, that to this day yielded me much fruit. I landed that Fortune 500 opportunity. And standing on the other side of that decision, I realized I did not invent this process. This came from the life that David lived. He had been practicing his entire life. And that process breaks down into 4 steps. And these 4 steps will change how you make every decision in your life. And it's called the deep framework. Now, the D stands for decide. Now, the word decide comes from the Latin verb, excuse me if I get this wrong, but decidere. Now, it means to cut off. Now, let's focus on the suffix of that. It's SIDE. That same suffix is in the word homicide and pesticide, which literally means to kill off, not pause, not revisit, but to completely cut something off. Most people think making a decision means choosing something. It actually means eliminating everything else and going on forward with what you have left. So let's take it back to when David was facing Goliath. In that story, when David had went down to check on his brothers to do what his father had told him to do, David had heard the words that Goliath was saying about God and God's people. He did not wait. He did not wait for any other conditions. He made a decision, and that decision was to cut off every other option. There was no retreat after that moment, no negotiation, no backup plan. The decision was everything. And that decision he made, everything followed in service of that. And David understood something that most people never grasp. A decision that leaves room for reversal and going backwards was never a decision at all. You're only delaying the pain of actually making the decision, which leaves you stagnant and stuck in the same place, which does not move you any closer to the goal that you are pursuing. Look at the decision that's in front of you right now. The one you've been sitting on, the one that's been your prayers, the one you're praying to God about, the one that keeps you up at night, the one you're thinking about all day long. The first step is not to make the perfect choice. It's making the mental commitment that I'm going to make the decision and cut off everything else. The first battle is not tactical. The first battle is winning the mental battle in your mind. Win that battle first, because a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. That decision that you're avoiding isn't just costing you one area of your life, but it's costing you all the other areas in your life not to be stable. It's like you're rocking in every single other stage in every area of your life because of this one decision you're not making. You've made the decision to decide. Now you need to move on to understand exactly what you're walking into, and that's the E for enlighten. Deciding what you're going to do is the first battle. Now, understanding what you're choosing is the second. Now, to enlighten yourself is to inform yourself. It's to give yourself and accumulate all the information that's needed before you make a move. To make a strategic move, not overthinking, not delaying, but being strategic enough to weigh your options with clarity and confidence. Because guess what? This is one thing we always forget. And I heard this, I believe, from Barack Obama on a Diary CEO podcast, that we never make decisions with 100% certainty at that moment. It only will leave you in the same area that you was before, feeling like you don't know what to do. But the moment you get to 51% certainty, make the decision and go forward, because confidence does not require perfection. It requires enough information for you to begin to move with conviction. And the moment you get to that 51% is when you start moving, because you stand in a place only going to create more fear, because you're not making any movement. You're not moving anywhere. So back to David. When David arrived at that battlefield and he heard what defeating Goliath would get him, or the person who defeated Goliath, which was the king's riches, his daughter, and freedom from taxes for his family. I believe David began weighing the situation. The pros were simple. They were clear. He got honor, he got provision, he got a chance to prove that no one can come against his God. He got the ability to provide freedom for his family via no taxes. And the con was equally clear. If Goliath wins, Israel serves the Philistines. David didn't need any more information. The moment he started defying God's people and his people, David didn't need any more information after he figured out the reward that you get, because the answer was simple. I'm finna go defeat him. Why? Because I have God on my side. This foundation was clear. He knew that any person that comes before God didn't stand a chance against God. And David knew all he had to do was make sure he's coming with authority and boldness in the name of the Lord, especially after he heard the reward for the person that defeats Goliath gets. Man, what? So this is what you do. You do the same thing that David did. You list out the pros and the cons of the decision in front of you. You evaluate it strategically without any bias, right? Without any outside opinion or letting fear show up as a disguise, and you never make the decision. Because what does the evidence actually say? What does your foundation actually support? At 51% clarity, stop waiting and start moving, because indecision is a mental battle the devil uses to keep you still, with no movement, with you being stagnant. Stagnation creates friction, and friction creates delay. And delay is the most expensive thing that you will ever pay for, because it's time wasted that you cannot get back. Now, we've made the decision, we have enlightened ourselves, and now we must start to eliminate. And this is the part that most people skip, because they're so focused, they're getting happy that, okay, I have the pros, I have the cons, I'm going to make the decision, but they never eliminate the other choices, which means they leave the choices there as a backup plan for them to go back just in case they take 3 steps forward and say, I don't know about this. And they go run back to the other decisions and they stay in the same spot. And that's probably where you're at right now. Elimination is not just choosing one path, right? It's burying the other paths that do not support where you're going. Remember, we said 51% clarity, you can begin to move forward. In the moment that you start to entertain those other decisions that you left behind, it creates doubt in your mind. And that doubt will keep you still and you will never move, because doubt does not stay small. Doubt grows every single day. It grows every time you feed it. It grows every time until you make the decision to leave it alone. And what that doubt does is pulls you away from the decision that you just made. And indecision and confusion gets louder and louder and louder in your head. The whole time you just had to make the one decision. You ever realize after you make a decision, right? It gets a lot quieter. It gets a lot quieter in your head. You can focus now. That came because you eliminated every other thing. You eliminate not because the other option was worthless, right? You eliminate because a divided mind produces a divided life. David did not defeat Goliath with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. The moment he stepped forward to run towards Goliath, he eliminated any other choice. And the thought of an uncircumcised Philistine defying God was enough for him. It was enough for him to realize, oh, he got to go. He has to get done. And there's no version of David's story where he just stood by and let Goliath win. And there's no version of David's story where he made a decision, he reverted back to that previous decision and said, never mind, I'm not going to do this. No, he buried the other option of not defeating Goliath before he even picked up that stone. The mental switch was already in his head. Because once the decision is made, you must honor it. Do not revisit the other options. Do not entertain the what ifs. Do not give the eliminated option a seat at the table for you to talk with and entertain with. Pick the decision, bury the other choices, bury the alternative, and begin to move forward. The moment you start pondering, you start losing the focus of what you should be doing. You're only carrying mental baggage that's going to hold you back. It's only going to slow you down, because you're going to be so focused on the place that you left that you never can see the place to where you're going. Make decisions fast, but be very slow to change these decisions. The strength of your decision is not in how you made it. It's how committed you are towards that decision. You've done everything right. Now, stop thinking and start running. This is P for the deep framework. We've decided, we have enlightened, we have eliminated, and now we pursue. Pursue is not you just walking towards your decision. It's sprinting towards it without looking back. It's you not looking back. The moment you look back, you're going to turn into a pillar of salt like Lot's wife did. We are made to look forward. We are not made to look to what we left behind us. It's behind us for a reason. When you're driving, you're looking forward. You're not looking backwards. It's only going to cause you to crash. So why should you do that? in making a decision and start looking backwards. You've already made the decision. You've already enlightened yourself. You've already eliminated. The moment you look back, you start losing. Not once in David's story does it say he looked back. The scripture says he ran towards Goliath. He ran towards the giant. He ran towards the problem. He ran towards the decision, towards the thing that everybody else was running from. In that pursuit, that full speed commitment that David made in that split second is what allowed him to defeat Goliath before the stone even left his hand. And like I said, remember Lot's wife? The moment she looked back, she turned into a pillar of salt. What you look back at has the power to freeze you in your place permanently. And the moment you get frozen in your place permanently, you will never begin to move again. So this is what you do. You make the decision and you do not turn back. Not to second guess it, not to mourn what you eliminated, not to check if the old option is still available. Honor your decision with full pursuit. Every step forward is a declaration that you trust what God has in you and where He is leading you. Live life forward. Everything you need is ahead of you. Everything looking back only costs you time, it costs you effort, because it shows as proof as what's behind you was never meant to come with you. Decide, enlighten, eliminate, pursue. That one framework, the same process that a shepherd, a little boy at the time, used to defeat a giant and become a king. And it's the same process that will help you take you from indecision to decision, for you to live the dream life you always dreamt of instead of staying in the life that you dread. And you never had a clarity problem. You had everything you needed the entire time. The information was there, the sign was there, God was speaking. You simply just weren't deciding. And analysis paralysis is real. It will leave you in a cycle of guilt, shame, and confusion. And that keeps you exactly where you do not want to be at. But the moment you decide like David, the moment you cut off every other option, enlighten yourself on what's in front of you, you eliminate what does not serve the direction you're moving in. You eliminate what baggage you were not supposed to carry with you, what God told you to leave behind. You pursue it without looking back at that moment. And your life begins to shift. Not someday, but that moment. The decision has been waiting on you. Stop waiting on clarity. Start moving with conviction, because conviction will determine your behavior. The decision is waiting on you. Stop waiting on clarity and move with conviction. Conviction shows your behavior. So, if this video gave you the push you needed, drop a comment down below saying, "I've decided." That 2-word comment is a declaration that you are done living in indecision and you're ready to pursue what God has for you as you continue to move on in this life. Drop a like if this helped you, and subscribe, because everything we're building here is just getting started. We made the decision to keep going forward, and you should do the same. The life you desire is not waiting on better circumstances. It's waiting for you to decide. Make the decision, and I'll see you next time. Keep stacking your days.